Hello, guys. Let's think about the mind of a photon. Let's have a journey beyond space and time. And can we imagine anything like this that the photon has mind? And we generally talk about humans, mind, and all that. If we go to this fundamental particle, you imagine a world where distance doesn't matter. The distance does not exist, where time never flows, where the entire universe is reduced to single eternal moment. Now, now you should imagine that I'm not talking about a fictional story of science. I'm talking about reality. This is reality from the perspective of a photon. A photon, the tiniest, the smallest packet of light, the messenger that carries the story of the cosmos, the story of the universe, from the birth of stars to the eyes of human beings. But here is the strange truth. I mean, if if you could step, if you could step inside the mind of a photon, you won't see any motion. You wouldn't see any motion. You wouldn't feel time. You would not experience even a journey because for photon, for inside photon, there's no journey. There's no motion. There's no flow of time. And today we are going to talk about it. We're going to leave behind our human intuition and let us go inside a reality. Let's enter a reality where space and time, they both behave in ways that challenge everything we think we know about, that we think we perceive, we have the intuitions. This is not just a kind of it's not a lecture. It's just a kind of experience, a kind of realization. What would it feel like to be inside a photon, assuming that we can be inside a photon? Let's try to be very simple about it. Let's begin it simply. If I talk about a photon is a particle of light, but calling it a particle is already misleading because a photon is not just it's not just a particle, and it is not just a wave. It is something deeper. It's something deeper than that of being a particle or being a wave. It is, to talk about it in simplest terms, it's a fundamental excitation of the electromagnetic field. A tiny, indivisible packet of energy. And this photon, it has no mass. It has zero mass. And that one fact changes everything, that it does not have any mass. Because in our universe, massless things behave very differently. They behave very differently from the massive things. the things that have mass. I mean, talking about you, talking about me, talking about the planets, talking about the stars, we all have mass, and we move through space, and we move through time. That's the fundamental intuition. That's the fundamental reality that we perceive. But talking about a photon does something extraordinary. Even though it moves at the fastest possible speed in the universe. That's the argument. That's the mathematical argument. That's the mathematical outcome. What's that? We call it the speed of light. And it's of the order of 3 times 10 to the power of 8 meter per second. Now, what does the speed do here? The speed changes the reality. I mean, the speed of light that we have, the speed of light, it's not just speed. It's something special. It's more special. It's more fundamental. It's not just the limit to the speed that we have. It's a boundary between the two completely different kinds of reality. What am I trying to tell is that nothing with mass can reach it. Nothing with mass can exceed it. But a photon is born at this speed. It's born. It comes to life with this speed. It does not accelerate to it. It's not like that it gains the acceleration and then it attains all that speed. It does not approach the speed of light. It's born. It's born with the speed 3 times 10 to the power of 8 meter per second. It simply exists at that speed always. This is the argument. This is the fundamental reality of the speed of the light. And once you understand this, you begin to realize, you begin to formulate, you begin to, to feel something shocking. What? At the speed of light, space and time begins to break down. The reality of space and time breaks down. Oh no, what am I saying? So what can I say in other words? It's like time stops. So what does that mean? The time stops. Let's talk about time. And for us, time flows. It flows in seconds. It flows in milliseconds, microseconds. It's seconds pass. Moments change. But in physics, time is not absolute. It depends on how fast you're moving. In physics, it has this kind of meaning. The faster you move, the slower time flows for you. It slows down. And to be frank enough here, this is not any kind of imagination that we have. This is an experimentally verified reality that time slows down when the speed of the body increases. For that body, the time slows down. Now let's try to take this idea. I'd like to take this idea to its extreme. What am I trying to say here is, like, what happens if something moves at the speed of light? Something, I mean to say, any kind of matter. So what's going to happen with the time? Time will stop. So time stops. It stops completely. It does not slow down. No, no, because it does not slow down. It simply becomes zero when the material particle attains this level of speed. So let's try to sink in. Let's try to sink here. Now try to think carefully. I'm inviting you to think very carefully. If time doesn't pass, if time does not pass, can anything happen? Can can there be something what we call as before and something I call as after? Can there be a journey at all when time stops? The answer is the answer is probably no. There will be no journey, there will be no pre, there will be no pro. That's how it is. So what does these photons experience? The experience that we can talk about. Let us imagine a photon, and this photon is emitted from the core of a distant star. So the point is, the moment it's born, it has that speed. So from our perspective, from our point of view, that photon may travel for millions, even billions of years before reaching the planet Earth. This is this is how we perceive it. But from the photon's perspective, from the point of view of photon, there's no time because time stops at that speed. There's no waiting, there's no travel, there's no distance because the time has stopped. There's no time for the photon. The moment it's created is the same moment it is absorbed. So I can say that emission and absorption are not the two events. These are not the two events. They are they're just one lone alone event. This is how it can be perceived in some philosophical sense. And what happens to the space for the photon? Space also collapses for it. So what happens? It's like, it gets even stranger when we think about space from point of view of photon. So just as the time collapses to zero, space also contracts. The distance shrink. So in the limit of light speed motion, what I can say is, I can say that the distance between the star and the end of the journey, it becomes zero for a photon. It doesn't have any existence for the photon. Even if you're inside the photon, you will experience the same reality as if there's no distance between the star and the planet Earth. So, so from the photon's point of view, and from the point of view that you are inside the photon, the entire universe from the star to your eyes is just a single point. this is this is what the journey is for the photon. This is what the journey is for the person inside the photon. And I can tell you that a journey, it's a journey that never happens. What we can say here is, and I think now we can say something truly, we can say something, something profound. A photon does not travel through the space. Then what happens? It connects, it connects two events that are separated in our reality, but unified in its own reality. This is how we can say about it. So for us, it crosses the galaxies, it crosses the stars, it crosses the planets. But for the photon, nothing happens at all. Nothing. No space, no time, no travel at all. So can we really talk about a photon's mind? That's the point where we are trying to reach. And now we must be very careful. We must be very careful in demonstrating, at least in perspectives, that a photon does not, can we say that a photon does not have a mind? It does not think. It does not observe. Can we tag it like that? And when we say inside the mind of photon, we are using imagination basically to explore a real physical truth. Because strictly, if we strictly speak about it, strictly speaking, physics does not basically allow, it doesn't allow a reference frame at the speed of light. So what we are basically doing, so what we are doing is not literal, but I can say it reveals something deeper than that. It shows us how different reality looks when we step beyond human limitations, when we have that perception of falling into a photon, which is not possible, but falling into it and opening the equations and trying to realize the environment of the photon. And we can say at the same point of time that light is something that connects this whole universe. Every time you see something, you are receiving the photons. And these photons, these photons are coming. They are coming from sun, and they are coming from distant stars. They're coming from galaxies. And these photons, the photons that begin their journey long before the human civilization, they existed in the universe, even though there wouldn't have been any kind of human civilization. But now you certainly know something extraordinary. You realize something beautiful. Those photons did not experience that journey. They didn't. They didn't travel. They didn't travel in their own perspective. They did not travel through time, because at that speed, there's no time for a photon. They simply connect past and present in a way that feels like motion to us. We feel as if there's motion, but it's timeless to be them. There is no flow of time for them. So what are the cosmic implications for this photon, for this particle? Saying it a particle is not right. Now expand this idea. The universe is filled. It's filled with light. It's filled with electromagnetic waves. It's filled with these photons. And every interaction, every observation, every image that you see, that I see, that everybody is able to see is built. It's built from photons. And these photons exist. They exist in in strange they exist in strange form. They have strange boundaries. They have strange boundaries between existence and non-existence of time. They are the threads, we can say. They are the threads that weave the fabric of reality together. The universe is woven of these photons. And if we take on this argument and let's try to build a shift in this kind of perspective that we are being we're being basically trapped in time. We are we as humans, we remember the past. We anticipate what could be the future, what will be the future of the things. We anticipate the future. But for photons, they exist. They exist outside this flow of past, present, and future. If we could somehow manage, if we could somehow step into that perspective, we would see the universe not as a sequence of events. We will see universe as a whole, as just one entity. It's not like that we are trying to unfold any kind of story. So what am I saying is that it's not as a story unfolding, but as a complete timeless structure. And and if I move from here a little bit, what it means for us from photons point of view, from photons perspective, from the photons point of view, this idea basically it challenges something very very deep, something deep to the deepest of deep. We think of reality as something that happens, and that reality is measured moment by moment. But what if at a deeper level, at the very fundamental level, everything simply exists? What if time is not fundamental? It's not fundamental, but something that emerges because we are not moving at the speed of light. Only only light is moving with that speed. So it's like coming out of something is born out of it. And to end this talk, I would like to say that the minor photon that I started with, the photon basically teaches us something profound. What it teaches us is that the universe is not limited to the way we experience it. It's not like that. The way we measure it, the way we calculate it. The reality is richer. The reality is deeper, stronger than our intuition. The intuition that allows us. And to end this argument, the mind of the photon that I started, that I tried to talk about, that I tried to understand, I'll tell you that the next time you see light, a sunrise, a star, a distant galaxy through a telescope, remember, I mean to say, remember this argument that photons that are reaching your eyes has not aged, has not waited, has not traveled in its own reality. So, this is my final argument. And I can say that it was born and it arrived in the same eternal moment. There is no flow of time, there is no traveling of distance. It was born, it's there, hitting your retina. And somewhere between that moment and somewhere your awareness of it, the universe reveals one of its deepest, the loneliest secrets. What's that? That space and time are not what they seem like. So, with this,